Demographers will tell you that this country has an ideally sustainable population of 30 million people. That was a figure that we reached 100 years ago. Can you imagine, as you're driving home tonight or walking down the street tomorrow, if every other person wasn't there, if every other car wasn't there? It would be quite civilised, wouldn't it? Our natural resources, and I'm talking about the land on which we can build and the land on which we can grow things, as well as our natural resources of other kinds, are sufficient ideally for a population of about 30 million. And yet our control of our borders has been hijacked by Brussels, and that's all part of a political programme to dilute national identity and import millions of people into this country who they think will support the EU that let them in, and the socialist nanny state that now supports them. They're here. And what else have we imported as well? Try crime and corruption.
That's right.
We've all seen the mugshots on TV of people wanted for violent crime, and you don't need me to tell you where a disproportionate number of them have come from. And it wasn't us. Meanwhile, we have a much more serious problem, and one that only a few people acknowledge, let alone understand. We, ladies and gentlemen, are dying as a nation. We are dying. Not because we've been overrun by others. We are not reproducing ourselves at a sustainable rate. To sustain any population of any country, the natives need to reproduce at 2.1 children per woman. We are at 1.5. That means that our population is likely to halve the native population every 35 years or so. Spain is worse off, Greece is worse off, Italy is much worse off. And those levels of population reproduction in those countries is so low that there is no evidence of any community with a reproductive rate of barely 1 ever recovering in full. It simply doesn't happen. Meanwhile, of course, the immigration population in Britain, particularly those from the Islamic countries, have birth rates of over 5 per woman on average. So it is no surprise then when a Muslim MP stands up in the House of Commons, as one did this last week or so, already forecasting that there will one day be an Islamic Prime Minister of this country, probably during the lifetime of my grandchildren, if not before. And if such a Prime Minister had a working majority of fundamentalists, it is entirely possible that Sharia law would pass into the law of this land, and Britain, as we know it, will be gone. Meanwhile, we have a government that refuses to face these indisputable facts, and another in waiting that also chooses to ignore it. But money, I need to come back to money just for a moment. Both our governments, if you can call them that, and I mean the ones on both sides of the English Channel, are living today in a dream world of their own devising. They have utterly lost touch with reality, as Mr. Darling only too clearly demonstrated in his budget last week. He has ensured over the months that most Brits have no real idea how deeply in the mire our public finances are. He either doesn't know, which I doubt, or his party is so desperate to cling to power, and there are alarming signs that they just might, that he does not want us to know. The same has been happening in Brussels over Greece and its runaway public debt. The EU is desperate to appear to have the situation under control. and there is now an unbridgeable gulf between the glorious ambitions of London and Brussels and what might reasonably be described as reality. Such deceit, such abuse of power, that they have either won or seized for themselves, is grotesque. It is a hideous and indefensible use or misuse of public trust. And we are, ladies and gentlemen, in my view, back to the days of Stalin. These men are utterly detached from the real world, and they care nothing except to retain power. I'd like to finish, ladies and gentlemen, with another quote. I started with Jefferson earlier. Let me finish with William Pitt the Younger. On the 22nd of July 1803, William Pitt the Younger said in Parliament, "We must recollect what we have at stake. It is our property, our liberty, our independence, our very existence as a nation. Everything dear and valuable to a man this side of the grave." Ladies and gentlemen, those words are as true today as they ever were during the Napoleonic Wars, and they may even be even more true. Thank you very much.